Morning all. Barely. Had a hard time sleeping last night. Took me a long time to get to sleep, so I'm a little late getting going this morning. There you go. Because when I'm an hour or two late, people will be like, why is Shannon so late? There you go. So one of the good things about working from home is that if I can't sleep, well, I'll just keep trying. All right. Interesting news today, and I don't know how far this is going to go or how many places are going to report it. So TSN had the Problem with Pain documentary where they looked at players on painkillers. They looked at players who weren't being told what they were being given, weren't being asked for, consent, and didn't understand the dangers and the risks. And that's something that I know from dealing with doctors. I learned in my 20s when I was going to doctors regularly for digestive problems I was having that I had the right to say no. And it always threw doctors off, where they'd be like, all right, we're prescribing this. And I'd say, I don't want that. But I'm giving it, I don't know. And I would tell them because I had done research. We didn't have the internet. We used to use things called books. So I would use books where I would say, okay, apparently this works really well. So I started, can I have this? What? Yeah, no, I can I get this instead? If it doesn't work great, I'll come back and take what you're offering, but I would rather have that. Did that a couple of times and it really threw them off. And I can only imagine that for athletes who are being basically paid to just play through pain, and we'll come back to that topic as well, that it's easier just to take whatever you're being given by a therapist or by a doctor. You trust that they have your best interests at heart. And in sports, they don't always have your best interests at heart. They may have the team's best interests at heart. And I mean, as a big wrestling fan, I know how that can get, where it's okay, just, make sure he's good to go. He has to go tonight. And because whether you like or dislike wrestling, that was an industry that they would have to wrestle 5 times a week, and they would just be on painkillers. And then we all, as humans, judge them because they end up abusing drugs or end up drinking heavily. And that's the cycle. That's where it gets bad. That's where it gets really ugly. So what's happened now is, and this has come out today, the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association, in response to seeing this, is going to have a discussion with its members on painkillers and informed consent. And again, I come back to what I talked about previously. I think the biggest problem is, if I tell somebody, hey, I went and I got some morphine to deal with pain, people go, yeah, that works really well, enjoy that. But if I said, hey, so they prescribed that I use some medicinal marijuana to deal with pain, there will be judgment. And as long as we're in a world where one draws judgment and the other one's A-okay, when one of them's dangerous and it's not the one that draws judgment, that's the major issue that I think we're still facing in the sports world, and I'm glad athletes are starting to speak up on it as well. and it's an important discussion that it feels like we're finally having in hockey. And I will come back to that discussion at the end of this video, well, near the end of this video. Marc-Andre Fleury. So, first thing I saw today, and I went, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and this is from Jesse Granger. Interviewed Marc-Andre Fleury. So Vegas has been all awash with all these rumors that Fleury wants out and Fleury's not happy and Fleury's just, he can't wait to leave and everything's a mess and on fire in Vegas. Well, listen up. He said, I want to stay in Vegas. I get along great with Robin Lehner, so I think it'd be all right. And he's talking about, if they re-sign Lehner. And he says, I don't know what the future holds, but I've loved every moment since I got here. I still love to play. I don't think I just want to be a backup, but I'll practice hard, try to play well, and hopefully get some games. But it always comes down to the coach's decision. Whatever happens, happens, and that's fine. That's the Marc-Andre Fleury that we know from Pittsburgh. That's the Marc-Andre Fleury that didn't freak out when Matt Murray became the starter. We have not heard anything from Marc-Andre Fleury. And if he was going to ask for a trade, it would be now. If he was going to say, I'm open to a trade, it would be now. So this isn't a goaltender that just wants to play nice. In my eyes, that's his honest opinion. Robin Lehner at the time came out and said, hey, we have a great relationship. We get along just fine. We laughed about what his agent tweeted out. And yet we're still seeing Vegas fans and some media as well, posting that picture of, oh, there's a sword in his back, and look, it's got DeBoer's name on it, and oh, poor Marc-Andre Fleury, and I've never seen him that way. I've never seen him whine and complain about needing extra starts. He's not that kind of goaltender. So now the ball's in the court of the Vegas Golden Knights. And of course, they haven't signed Leonard yet. We're putting the cart before the horse. Putting the goalie before the contract. He hasn't signed anything. So until that happens, Fleury's their goaltender for next year. So I'm glad to see he doesn't want to trade, and I didn't see any reason he necessarily would. We didn't see Pekka Rinne losing his mind that Saros was getting starts in the playoffs. I didn't see Nashville fans getting all angry and antsy about it. Once a goaltender reaches 35 and beyond, they understand that their starts are at the very least going to be cut back, and that there's going to be a transition to another goalie, likely within the next couple of years, because teams have to exist in the future. And Fleury turns 36 this fall, so he seems realistic, and that's great, and that's the kind of answer you want to hear if you're Golden Knights management. There still hasn't been a trade between Florida and Pittsburgh, and apparently there's two things that may be holding it up. It's mired in mystery, and I waited all day for that trade yesterday, so it's kind of ignorant that it got leaked and then didn't happen. That's not right. Hornqvist has a no trade clause, so he may have said no. That may have been one of those, you want to trade me where? No. Which, honestly, if I'm Jim Rutherford, I send him a gift basket for that. Because that trade, and I understand, I saw a couple comments like, well, Matheson makes less money and he's younger. Yeah, a player being younger doesn't necessarily mean better. Because, I'm sure the Canucks would offer Troy Stetcher for Sidney Crosby too. But that's just not a good trade. And, the Panthers also apparently want injury insurance. Not all contracts are insured, so this is one of those things, one of those behind-the-scenes things that we don't really think about. Nathan Horton's contract was not insured. So when he ended up not being able to play the last 6 years of his contract, teams were paying it, meaning there wasn't an insurance company that was basically footing the bill. So this is a whole discussion to have for another time about teams that hit the cap, looking at you, Arizona, who have done so in the past with contracts that are paid for by insurance because those players aren't actually playing. So it's artificially reaching the floor to some of us. It's legal. It's within the bounds of the collective bargaining agreement. But it is bizarre that you may have a contract that isn't covered by insurance, injury insurance. So I think Florida did the smart thing both in trying to get Hornqvist and to try to make sure that if he gets hurt, and almost every player in Pittsburgh gets hurt during the year, so it makes sense that maybe when they go elsewhere, they might as well. If that contract's not insured, I don't know that I'd pick it up either. So it's an interesting aspect of what may have knocked this trade off the rails. We'll probably find out in the next couple of days, for sure. Gary Bettman agrees with us. Yes, he does. Bettman agrees that a full season in a bubble will not work. So the bubble environment in Edmonton and Toronto, as much as that worked, again, it's not going to work going forward. And they need to figure out the safest way possible. And they're looking at the NFL, they're looking at baseball, they're looking at other North American sports, and trying to figure out the safest way to do it. Now, their cautionary tale is the KHL. The KHL is doing something interesting. Fans in attendance, playing games, players test positive, they don't care. There are some instances where teams are being allowed to have a break. Entire teams are in quarantine. And so there's some games that are being postponed, but there are some teams that are being told, all right, just throw all your juniors in. So SKA, where the Canucks property of Vasily Podkolzin is playing, over half of his teammates in isolation or ill. So that throws the whole team into an absolute mess. And they had I think the youngest team in KHL history on the ice for their last game. So as the NHL winds down, I'm like, hey, maybe I'll start covering some KHL stuff. Oh God, this is terrible. So there's some debate about whether or not the league can even continue, whether or not it makes any sense. But it feels like the league saying, whatever, we'll just keep playing through it. Whatever. Yeah, they're all going to get sick. Who cares? And so, and honestly, if I'm an NHL team and I've got players over there right now, I might be kind of making some phone calls and saying, I don't know that I want my player over there. And maybe you're calling the player, maybe you're calling the team. Yeah, it is absolutely massive outbreak they're suffering through right now in the KHL. And it's just, this is what happens when you just say, forget it. We'll just have just regular every day. And there you go. Victor Rask is not getting bought out, according to Bill Guerin. So buyouts start tomorrow. I hope you guys have got your buyout presents ready for tomorrow. Big buyout day in the NHL. And there will be some fan bases celebrating some of these buyouts. But Rask is not getting bought out. There is no plan apparently in Minnesota to buy out Rask. I don't think that they have to either. I don't think it's a contract they have to buy out. I don't think Minnesota's in a place where they have a major cap crunch right now that would warrant buying out Victor Rask. But looks like he may very well start next season as a member of these guys right here, Minnesota Wild. Last night, Victor Hedman gets his 10th goal, and he joins kind of heady territory here. Paul Coffey had 12 goals on the blue line in 1985. Coffey on the blue line. Sure he was. Brian Leach had 11 in 1984. He was a legit 100% defenseman. Coffey in 1985 was pretty much a rover. The interesting thing with Paul Coffey is he learned the defensive side of the game later on. As the offense slipped a bit, he became a better defensive defenseman. And Scotty Bowman helped him a lot with that too. So, those are the only other two defensemen who've ever reached 10 goals in a playoff year. So, Hedman's in a pretty interesting territory. And if he scored one or two more goals, he either ties Leach or ties Coffey for the all-time lead in the postseason. Also worthy of note, Vasilevsky, I believe with last night's win, has now reached 16, which means he very well could reach 18 and just break those NHL record books. And that's a record that probably stands for good unless they have a 24-team tournament again next year. So, yeah, congratulations to Hedman on that. The NHL posted a video, Price to Pay, and it showed a lot of players getting hurt and dinged up and this kind of thing with the idea that this is the price you pay to win a Stanley Cup. And I know what they're going for. I know what they're going for with this, but I also know why it would have been deleted. I don't know that it's attached to the problem with pain part, but this is that fine line that the NHL finds itself being on. And the NFL has the same problem. The NFL, you've got these players who get hurt regularly, but the videos that draw the most views are going to be absolutely drilling hits, right? They're going to be these big bone-crushing hits that may have sent somebody to the hospital. The NHL is much the same thing. You get a lot of views on hits, you get a lot of views on fights, you get a lot of views on guys getting banged up. And it is this warrior mentality in hockey that I don't think we'll ever lose. And for people who worry that the NHL is going to soften up and it's going to take all the hitting out and take the fighting out, that video kind of shows that the people who make the decisions at the top, they don't have any idea of getting rid of hitting or fighting or anything like that. It's not going to happen. Bettman himself has said you can't take head hits out of the game. They have no intention of ever completely wiping head hits out of the game because it's impossible to throw body checks at full speed in the NHL and have 0% chance of hitting the head by accident. So that's basically where they're going with that. So that video being deleted kind of shows that maybe they realized it was the timing was a bit off, or showing guys getting hurt and playing through pain while we have this documentary up on guys playing through pain and the pressure to play through pain and getting hooked on painkillers. It doesn't match up very well. It just doesn't match up very well. So yeah, we'll see what happens going forward if the NHL puts up another video of that sort after the Stanley Cup win. And I think, again, you can balance it out. You can have hits here and there, and you can have goals here and there, and I think you can just balance it all out. Again, the sport will never be 100% safe. I didn't even bother watching the video because, I saw what it was about, and I watched all the games, so I've seen all those hits anyways, so it's fine. But again, the NHL's just trying to, appeal to the crowd that appreciates the physical side of the game. And I also thought it was kind of a tribute to the players who do play through that pain and go through everything to win a Stanley Cup. But again, you've got this, that makes a difference. If you are a Ducks fan, if you live in the U.S. especially, I thought I'd throw this in. I saw this on Twitter. They're having a 50% off on Solani merch sale in the Ducks team store right now. So 50% off is pretty good. I didn't order anything myself because I looked at it and I went, all right, so that hat's normally $16 American. It's $8 American. Shipping it to Canada means no. So that's why I didn't do it. And again, I probably have enough hats. Yeah, I probably have enough hats. So I kind of left it at that. But yeah, there you go. So if you're a Ducks fan, get your Solani merch today. Of course, you were probably reading ahead anyways, and you probably already clicked on it. So Thursday, September 24th. I'm just hoping for the year to be over a little quicker is the problem. That's the whole thing right there. And now I'm skipping ahead in months. I was skipping back in months before. Months don't really mean anything in 2020. So, yeah, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding any of these news articles of the day. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.